Boy and Iceman, is that correct?
Yeah, that seems right. It got two, one person tracking the two on top, one tracking the two on bottom. That's how they usually split these things.
Well, we are off to the races already, and we're finding a bomb capacity upgrade in Link's house, and the Sanctuary just has a key for the escape sequence, so looks like a lot of our runners are already heading towards the escape sequence itself.
Right, even though we're not forced to go there at the beginning, it's always a good start to go see what the uncle and that first chest by him has.
Well, we do get some early information. We haven't killed 4 enemies yet, so that tree pull is our tier 1 pull. We could kill 4 enemies after taking damage, we'll get tier 2, and if we kill 4 without taking damage since the last pull, it'll be tier 3, and those are random content, so we may find something useful like bombs if we come back to that later. Uncle here just has some love for us. Well, speak of random drops.
That's one explosive crab.
7 times over, and Elminster is all set for his bombs for quite a while. That's an awesome find, and we're even going to see the lumberjack item, which today is just some cash.
And also we had Blaine do an early map check there when they were heading up into the world. We got 2 pendants in the light world this time, at Eastern and Hera, and it looked like neither one of them were the green pendant.
Yeah, so unless we end up having an item on the Master Sword pedestal, it's very unlikely that we'll complete those dungeons unless we need to for items. Something that our runners will be keeping in mind throughout this race. With that, though, we still have some divergence. Pretty much everybody went to Lost Woods now that Wayne has found bombs through another source. Going to head towards the race game. Going to be the first one to do so. Oh boy, nobody likes that boomerang, right?
Now that is the red boomerang. It creates a lot of lag, not as nice as the blue boomerang, and you can't make a nice little like combined word out of it. Red meringue doesn't flow as nice as blue meringue.
Fair point, although it does throw twice as far, which can be handy in its own way, and it doesn't really do any more or less damage to the enemies that Boomerang can damage, so yeah, not a lot of advantages. That being said, though, Kakariko Village about to be the treasure trove of items for us. Early game, we see a lot of runners make their way over here. We haven't found anything too exciting just yet, though.
No, Blind's Hut just having bits of love and some pointy bits as well. Yeah, 3 little heart thingies there.
Hey, now that's something exciting, though. Elminster's the first one in the basement of Thief's Hideout here, finding the Canis Samaria, which can point us into a lot of different directions. We don't know exactly what, say, Turtle Rock or Misery Mire would look like, and we definitely can't get there yet. But those are things that are gated there logically, so that'd be interesting to see later on.
Yeah, it's one of those items that gives progression usually later on in the seed, so it can be a relief to find it at the beginning, but also kind of, I wish I had something that, maybe points me in a better direction early on.
Hey, but even though we don't have a sword yet, we could finish off Blind with that.
That is true. And speaking of blind, now we can see. We found the lamp in the well in Kakariko there. Oh, and there's the good boomerang.
All is now right with the world. We also saw Blaine there go to the bottom left shack in the town, which gives you 4 bombs every single time you enter the building. A definitely efficient way to farm bombs if you have at least one.
Another thing about both the boomerangs, and once we start being able to kill enemies, is that you stun them once you are able to toss a boomerang at them, and the stun prizes are also randomized. You can find something pretty useful from those drops.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a couple races where you get a large magic decanter, and that's an absolutely fast or amazing thing to find, because anytime you want to use that fire rod or abuse it, it becomes much easier to do so. Well, we don't have a lot of rupees yet, although our bottle vendor on the Animals of Sciences screen giving us a power glove, so now we can play with power. That being said, though, not a million things we can do with the Power Glove just yet. We are still, for the most part, pretty much weaponless, so that may end up being an impediment to us finishing off any dungeons, for example. And as of right now, we can only really climb Death Mountain and go into Eastern. There's not much, dungeon completion available to us.
But it's always nice to have those gloves early and not have them, say, trapped in the, inside the Dark World for both of the gloves. I've seen that happen before. And also, having the lift upgrade does open up the back of Escape. They can get the 3 items here as Elminster is showing off.
Interestingly enough, around the time that you would be there if you were doing the escape sequence normally. And talk about your rewards. Now, an interesting difference between standard mode and open mode is that you don't get the free light cone in the escape sequence. You could drop in there once you have the glove, but if you were to take the front entrance, you would actually have to do dark rooms unless you'd gone to Kakariko first. So, very nice to have that glove, even on top of the reasons we've already said. But Titan's Mitts, I mean, nothing's better than that. So, wow, less than 10 minutes into the race, we can get into the Dark World. Still need that Moon Pearl if we're going to do anything there, though.
Kind of fitting that the hook shot is in the Light World Swamp Gate here, considering it's like the swamp dungeon item over in the Dark World.
Yeah, I suppose if Swamp Palace were a mixtape, that would be a really nice hook.
What do we got? Ooh, some soggy boots.
Talk about your speed combo.
So now we can run, we can latch ourselves onto places. That's also good that getting the hook shot early on before you head up to Death Mountain. Once you get stuff like, say they get the Moon Pearl or Mirror and can basically clear out all of Death Mountain in one shot. There's a lot of stuff up there.
And then, of course, there is the pure satisfaction of having this hook shot just to kill these mini mold worms and not waste any bombs.
Oh yeah, can be very difficult to destroy them with either bombs or throwing the cane around. And here in the Generous Man's Cave, we got a little side quest item and bug net.
Yeah, if only we had the bottle, then we would have pretty much all the safety that an NMG runner, at least, like Elminster, would ever want. That being said, though, it's a very opportune time to be heading towards Ice Rod Cave here.
Having the boots here really helps. It cuts down the amount of time that you have to take to get over here. I know a lot of people tend to skip this area, although not as commonly skipped as it used to be, I believe. Just because it's so out of the way. The only other option, like, sometimes people will wait until they get the flute to get, like, these 20 rupees here.
Interesting thing here, though, you see Elminster's trying to set up a dash that'll leave the cave while alongside a gap. He's setting up a water walk, which is a really interesting glitch you can do to literally walk on water. And with boots, you can dash. It's even better. But that's a great way to go check out the hobo under the bridge. You have to jump off a vertical platform like that. And there he goes. Everybody else is pretty much doing the same thing, though, finally making their way to South Shore, spending a little bit more time in escape sequence, it looked like, compared to Elminster in the bottom left. I have to wonder what the hobo thinks seeing Link approach at this speed. Seems rather nonplussed.
And just a bomb capacity upgrade. Also, Elm checked out the Lake Hylia Island. Only 300 rupees there, so probably not going to see you teleporting onto there once they get the mirror.
That's an important detail. It's very easy to drop off the ledge to check that, and a lot of runners, kind of look past that. Even though with open mode, you can buy your bombs just east of Link's house, so that's a good thing to keep in the back of your mind if you're going to join one of these races. Well, there's a boots location down. Elminster finds nothing of value, just the bomb bag upgrade, and we already have plenty of bombs. though he may be the first one up the mountain, it appears. Remember, folks, we are still swordless. And 10 minutes in, we still haven't really sniffed so much of a dungeon yet. I'm sure some of the other, 13 runners that are not on the screen right now, somebody's probably in Eastern by now. But there's definitely Sahasrahla area to check. Magina's Cave is possible, though it takes some time. And then, of course, up the mountain, which we could have done a little bit sooner if we wanted to.
Just a nice tip from the old man for bringing him home. More importantly, you open that start area. Probably the easiest, fastest to begin from, especially once you get the flute.
I'm just a big fan of the fact that we have the hook shots so we can do hook dashes. Elements are putting that on display right there. Not finding anything inside a Spectacle Rock or on top, but at least we've kind of knocked these things out of the way. And those 300 rupees could be valuable if we want to go back to, Zora's Domain later.
Yeah, so far both of the 300 rupees that they've seen are been locked behind other items, so it's possible that Zora might have something late game this time. Although rupees really don't factor into like his availability or anything. It's just that it's more helpful to get those 300 rupees than, grind up all the way in small bits and pieces to that 500 mark.
Absolutely true. Spend a little bit of time there and save a little bit on collecting smaller amounts makes a lot of sense. And, if it's just convenient, that's, what people will do. They'll just, carry all those rupees from the chest they open. But I am very interested to see that Bwain also did a water walk. I didn't see a water walk out of Salty Fry or the Animals of Science.
I saw Animals of Science doing a fake flipper. I don't know what didn't see what areas they checked, but they also did just check King's Tomb, which Elminster skipped for that moment when he did the bonk rocks.
Wow, a couple of things we're finding in Paradox Cave. We've got a Quake Medallion and some Literacy, which is really nice. And we get to see a nice bomb jump, too.
Yeah, very nice bomb jump there.
I gotta say, though, points to Salty Fry for style using the, I don't remember the exact name of it, but it's some kind of wireframe link. I really love that we have so many sprites available to us. A lot of fun and diversity in this game.
So it looks like Salad Sauce went shopping and got some water toes. Flippers are in the back half of there.
I guess it wasn't a, nice enough day to go to the beach. Decided, just gonna hang those up for the time being.
Well, I mean, with all those Zoras in the water shooting fireballs at you, I wouldn't want to go either.
Hazardous time to be really in the waters, they're migrating right now, so... Yeah, they obviously belong in Zora's Domain. We're swimming out here at the Lake Hylia. That's his closest beachfront, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the closest beachfront to the eastern area.
But Wayne actually wants to go all the way to Waterfall Cave having those flippers, and makes a lot of sense now that he's picked them up. Makes it easier to go to Zora's Ledge, too. Not having to go back here twice. Gotta love that, though. Double 50s?
Fistfuls of 50s.
Coming across some tongue twisters here, Wayne and returning back and stuff like that, but we're also seeing some Death Mountain plays as well on the right half of the screen. Salty Fry is going to go find that book in Quake Medallion, and Animals of Science right behind him.
So... I'm just thinking here. We got book, we got lamp, we got lifties. So Desert Palace is almost completely completable. Now, do they want to do bomb lamb molas to finish it completely off?
It's starting to look like that's the only route that's available to us so far, but there are a few more places where we could find items, potentially in Eastern itself. Nobody's had the courage to dive into there, although I noticed we did pick up silver arrows at some point. I must have missed that.
Those were in Death Mountain as well, along with the bottle that Elminster got. Same area, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right. Maybe it was in the bottom part of Paradox Cave. And we do have Spiral Cave as well for Salty Fry, so there's a little bit of time spent there, but it seems like Elminster has chosen to head towards Eastern Palace instead of Desert Palace. I'm wondering if we're going to see some divergence between our runners there, because we know for a fact that without that bow, you can't really do anything in this in the back half. And then Desert Palace, I guess people want to avoid maybe the Bomb Molus.
Yeah, avoiding that, and I want to say like Eastern's a little bit of an easier dip, and just it's right there. You're in Sarasrala's area anyway. Might as well go check as much of Eastern as you can. Maybe hopefully find all the items, like a sword. That's helpful. Now we can go do desert.
I now understand the point of going to Eastern. Give it a second.
Your puns, they stab me straight through the heart.
You know, I just gotta poke around, see if I can find something that sticks. That being said, though, that's an awesome advantage for Elminster, being rewarded for not going to Desert, which, you know, we haven't seen anybody else featured so far do so. We saw an interesting Death Warp as well for Salty Fry, having found everything on the mountain. I'm kind of curious where we're going to see Salty Fry and the Animals of Science go next.
Yeah, Desert honestly is a little bit out of the way in comparison to, say, Eastern. I mean, you do have Agina's Cave over there and the Desert Ledge check as well, but in general, I typically see people kind of hanging back to doing that compared to checking out Eastern.
Well, we're going to find out here. Yep, Elminster's going all the way to the last chest, the big key chest. To check everything in here, and unless it's a bow, we're kind of deadlocked there. That being said, it is a pendant.
It does look like Animals of Science is going to be the first one over into the desert area, however, picking up some extra bombs from the explosive crab here before dodging the bird and taking a run into the sands.
We'll have a first shot at Agina's Cave, and with those boots, it's a lot faster to get to. I can't imagine someone being gutsy enough to check this cave earlier, so this is probably one of the first looks we're going to get at this across the entire race. And bombos.
That could be helpful.
Our best two uses for it, of course, are going to be opening up one of the dungeons in the Dark World, potentially two of them, or none. And then we can always use it in Ice Palace if we are shy of a fire rod, but that would be a pretty dire situation.
Got some mushrooms growing on the ledge today. Another delicious fetch quest item.
I'm not entirely certain if those are safe to pick out in the desert. Not sure on the genus of that type. But, you know, some people will hazard it. Maybe we should check it out with the witch. I believe she has a doctorate in pharmacology. One of the most frustrating things about Desert Swordless, though, are these sand monsters. You really gotta find a way around them. Some people will do a bonk on the right side against the wall that sticks out slightly, but now that we have boots, though, it's not a big problem. We can check everything in here.
Yeah, there's one danger of doing desert without boots is that you get a situation like this where you get a small key on the torch and nothing in the first chest there and you can't move on. Elminster definitely going to have an easier time over here with that nice sword.
We are seeing some different routes going on for both Salty Fry and Wayne, though. Both of them have elected to go to the basement of the escape sequence, which we haven't seen from anybody else in this featured race so far. There are two locations down here, and I don't believe we found the map earlier, but we did find a small key in the sanctuary, so we're likely to find at least one thing down here. Whether it's of value, who knows?
What was of value, however, Moon Pearl and Desert on the east side there.
Well, that's definitely a gatekeeper to this sphere of logic. We're now able to head to the dark world, and a lot of places are already open to us with that hook shot. Definitely going to be looking for that hammer shortly following, though, if we want to do much on the east half of the world without having to walk a very long way.
Was that on purpose? Moon Pearl Sphere?
I was referring kind of to the logic. Yeah, let's just say it was.
Yeah, for those who don't know, the logic of sort of how things are gated in a way are referred to as spheres. So the first sphere is usually the items that you can get right when you start the game, and then each progression item opens up the next sort of sphere of the logic. But you know, moon pearls are round, so we'll just go with that.
Well, on the opposite end of the shape spectrum, we do find another sword in the basement here. Blaine about to pick it up right now, so that will give us up to Master Sword making Aghanim potentially in the logic, and without Hammer, that may actually be required.
Ooh, that just sends chills up my spine.
Well, you could always join Aghanim on the beach for, a summer match of Ganon volleyball if you're interested. Classic Zelda volleyball, which, interestingly enough, was started in this game. It's a mainstay since forever now.
Yeah, Zelda volleyball being the reason why I couldn't finish Ocarina of Time by myself as a kid.
It's still pretty hard to finish these days. Some games don't age as well as this game does. Hot take.
Very, very toasty take there. So we have Animals of Science here showing that, yes, land molas can be damaged with the red cane blocks.
And a nice little bit of game knowledge here, knowing that you can get multiple hits per block, too. A lot of people will detonate the blocks, but unless you're going to get, two things with one hit doing that, it's just better to pick it up and throw it or walk into it with it. And also some very interesting hitboxes, because nobody really intended for you to be able to do this anyway. It just happens to take the damage.
That was a really fancy fight.
Yeah, for what it's worth, that was faster than I would have thought.
Definitely faster than blue cane and bombs.
Well, I am excited to see all 4 of our featured racers in the same dungeon at the same time, 2 of them in the same boss fight. Though, interestingly enough, I think if the Animals of Science had picked up flippers already, it would definitely be a clear lead, but Elminster still does have a few extra checks done, and had a pretty decent fight. Now, where to go with Titan's Mitts, though? I get the feeling we're going to see a Village of Outcasts play pretty quick here.
That makes the most sense at this point.
Wow, the Animals of Science deciding to take the sick kid's lunch money. Unfortunately, he probably will not be able to afford the medication he needs for that cold wind that blew down from Death Mountain. Getting a cold there, that's rough. Well, unfortunately, because we have that Moon Pearl, we will... Oh, hey, there's a map check. We have a green pendant at Ice Palace, and 5 and 6 are Skull Woods and Palace of Darkness, respectively.
Ooh, it'd be really cool if Rasrala had something.
Yeah, so Harshalarsh has a cold heart, so maybe, his pendant does belong in Ice Palace. That cowboy does not, give away his items, easily.
Something like, Green Pendant from Ice Palace has the Ice Rod so you can beat Turtle Rock. That sounds pretty good.
In terms of logical chains, that sounds pretty terrible. I think that sounds about what would be par for the course for version 29. Skullwoods, though, the traditional play, something that, used to kind of be a gangbusters location for items, because with only 2 items in the entire dungeon and how accessible the rest of the dungeon is, sans the fire rod for the back half, pretty easy to check here quickly and nope out if you don't find anything.
Yeah, so far, just a bunch of keys and dungeon items.
And because this is one of the 5-6, we will definitely be back. If we were to find the Fire Rod here, this would be an awesome turn of events. Ooh, Animals of Science is going to take a death on the Overworld, which is really costly, due to how low health and low armor we are at this point.
Yeah, still green tunic and what's that? 6? Yeah, 6 hearts. I can count.
Well, Animals of Science could definitely count on the Animals of Lost Woods or Skull Woods taking 2 hearts each time, and that was pretty rough. There is still a lot of time left in this race, though, to make it up, and a couple of really smart, intelligent decisions, or potentially lucky decisions, could put us back into this. We also see Wayne checking Super Bunny Cave, getting a couple pieces of love. Well, Karaoke, you're going to see something hype here in Hookshot Cave today?
New clothes.
I mean, that's pretty hype.
And that jellyfish kind of bullying Salty Fry off the ledge there. Not very nice. Yeah, just some new clothes.
Not even Sanctuary Heart. We also did get a piece of information. We found out that Ether is at Turtle Rock, or at least Ether is the medallion required to open Turtle Rock, so we have not found that yet. That is the only medallion we're missing.
Of course, we get struck by the, 33 or 0.3 repeating % chance of which one is going to be, and it's the one we don't have, so they'll be on a quest to find that one somewhere, anywhere in the world.
I'm almost kind of surprised it wasn't right under the doormat in Super Bunny Cave. It seems like a popular place for it. That being said, though, there is Thieves Town still on the plate, and then, of course, we're going to see Salty Fry check out a chess game. Animals of Science is already in there. 4 chests are available to us right in the start, so that's an easy place to get to once you've done Skull Woods.
Yeah, easy place. Some people will just dip in and grab the first 4 chests, especially when Thieves Town is not a crystal. But I think since it is in this case that we're going to be finishing the whole thing since we can, Blind is probably the easiest boss in the Dark World here to finish.
Yeah, thankfully we don't have to do it swordless, although Samaria is not bad at all.
Yeah,
I am
Samaria
interested.
is pretty easy.
I'm wondering if anybody's gonna... Oh, there's the mirror. That was exactly what we were missing the most.
How illuminating.
Well, the nice thing that we can reflect back on is that the blacksmith is now available to us, since we can pick up that rock with Titan's Mitts, and now we can also mirror back to the light world.
Yeah, blacksmith, we can do Batman as well, since we have the official powder. Don't even have to glitch it this time.
Yeah, we can't do fake powder anymore, but we could do fake powder. That is possible if you'd like to.
What about fake powder?
I'm not sure I can handle that. It sounds like the real deal, though. With Thieves Town, though, we do have a couple of opportunities to have some bad times. The Animals of Science narrowly making it out of the Hellways, we like to call it. Not quite getting, say, what we call the God Pixel, or being able to dash through. But we will get our first Hype Cave check from Elminster here.
Yeah, both Elminster and Salty Fry going for the long toad journey here. Alright, Hype Cave. How hype are we gonna be today? We get some bombs at the start, a little bit of love, a little bit of money, a little bit more money, and another bottle.
It's the O'Cripes Cave.
I'm disappointed.
Unfortunately, unlike older versions of the game, this is not usually as lucrative of a location. And maybe that speaks to hammers being seeded a little bit earlier in older logics, or at least in general. Maybe that Hype Cave was a little more available. It's been a while since I played, say, version 7 and 8, but those randomizers are still playable if you can find the old patchers for them.
Elminster showing off the little complainy pants blacksmith when you end up in Dark Mountain with him. He's not very happy about being such a weird place. Just wants to go home already.
And Elminster will oblige, looking to be the first one to turn in the blacksmith chain. And as Chad has reminded us, since we don't have the hammer, we do lose out on that one piece of progression over here at that point, though. Though we could come back through the Dark World and mirror to the Magic Bat.
Yeah, once Elm picks up the mirror over in Thieves Town, it's always a good thing to get there.
Now, I haven't been paying close attention to the items here in Thieves Town, but after Blind, we'll know for certain whether or not that basement chest in the big key chest, or the big chest itself, I always get those mixed up, will have an item for us. We need the hammer to open that chest at all, so that's going to be relevant.
Animals of Science showing off just how swag it is to do Kane Samaria strats on Blind here. No matter what you hit Blind with, you will always take the same amount of hits, though.
Oh, we're getting close there. Oh, I thought we had a fairy. Oh, that's a rough time loss. Although, thankfully, Blind is pretty quick to get back to for the dungeon, but Animals of Science get nope out instead.
Yeah, might not be comfortable with the amount of hearts they still have at this point, and probably will come back later once they, maybe once they finish their first row.
It's interesting how much difference in divergence we're seeing in these Blacksmith World Tours. Wayne here taking it down towards Hype Cave, and Salty Fry checking the catfish. Gonna find a bee in a bottle.
I think that was the catfish's lunch he just horked up there.
Yeah, unfortunately cannot digest the glass, so willing to part with it for now. It wasn't a good bee though, so we can't sell it for 100 rupees. Do you think that's an uncomfortable position to be in as a bee, already trapped in a bottle but underwater?
I mean, well, at least you can breathe.
I'm also very impressed by this blacksmith in the top right corner with Salty Fry, having just swam across the river, something you don't see too often. Speaking of which, this mushroom's getting turned in.
There it is! We have our Zappin coin, so we got all 3 medallions, meaning both Misery Mire and Turtle Rock are going to be open to us at this point. To be opened, at least.
And it may take a while for some of our runners to pick that up. The reason being is that we don't have the flute yet, so it's not that convenient to come back here. But if someone were to go to check Catfish with Mirror, that'd be a great time to do it. Although I would loathe going into Palace of Darkness at this point. Not the best place to be. We may find stuff.
Boyne going up here, still with the blacksmith, checking out the pyramid. What's on the ledge? Yeah, it's the cape there.
That has got to be the fastest frog I've ever seen. Nice thing about followers is they do persist through your movement speed. So if you do something like super speed, hook dashes, spin speed, they're all kind of the same derivation of the same thing. Your follower, even if it's Zelda or if it's the maiden in the basement of Thieves Town, will always persist at the same speed, which is really funny to see with certain sprites. I also see a purple chest, so the Animals of Science is going to dive deep on this logic chain. This does take some time. You normally can't dash with the chest, but the use of the hookshot here, when you can grab onto something, there's a small window after that hookshot where you can charge up a dash without dropping the chest.
Yeah, unfortunately, chest doesn't have legs to keep up with you.
Never looked at it that way, but that makes a lot of sense. Well, that's a bummer, but on the bright side, this is an opportunity to check what's on the tablet here where Bombos would normally be.
Yeah, they can't actually get the item, but they can read it. Just a little love, so we won't be back here.
It's kind of interesting that the Animals of Science is the only one featured right now that has avoided a sword up until now. That's potentially going to be a pain, and maybe blind would have been a little bit easier if we had been slightly more thorough in our checks before that.
It just shows that how routing can be in this game. You have so much open and those one little bits and bobs. They're like they haven't gone to Easter and they haven't gone all the way through Escape to get the 2 swords that we've had featured so far. No one else has gone to the second location that they haven't checked so far for a sword either. Plus we haven't found the other 2 or anything yet.
Yo, I saw that, Blaine. I saw that fence dash attempt. At least you went for it. The fabled up and A is a very difficult maneuver. That's like an NMG shout out. I don't know if that really registers with everybody. Which is interesting because I believe Bueno, Mincer, and possibly Salty Fry. I'm not sure on Salty Fry's end, but at least those 2 definitely do run NMG. So, folks, if you like Randomizer, you might potentially really like the vanilla speedrun of the game. Definitely encourage everybody to check that out.
Yeah, it's very interesting seeing people skip chests.
I can't tell you how many times I've opened up Turtle Rock's map chest. So we're seeing a lot of Thieves Town, and then the Animals of Science heading back up to Death Mountain at this point. No added advantage for equipment. This hammer is proving to be rather elusive. I'm wondering if we're going to find that in Palace of Darkness at this point. But the implications of that would mean that Aghanim was logically required.
Elminster here, gonna show off. Probably a scripted blind fight.
Oh, just barely got away from him, but it was still a good fight.
Yeah, still in that first top cycle there. And just some bombs in the explosion.
Yeah, I'm just like, chat's talking about it right now, but I mean, like, could you imagine Hammer being first chest of Swamp and the long journey you'd have to do to get there?
Yeah, that's silly.
You know, though, Animals of Science may be committing now. Oh no, does the Animals of Science have the cape yet?
I don't believe so. No.
Possibly just didn't do the basement of Escape.
Yeah, they haven't done Basement Escape because they would have a sword if they did do it already.
Ah, yes. So that's one thing that runners that have the cape might be considering is, was I supposed to, go to Aghanim to get to Palace of Darkness for Hammer? And if so, a water walk off of Skull Woods' pit would actually be really nice time save. But these items are elusive, and there are still several locations they can be. We also haven't found a bow yet, and that's going to be an interesting logical gate as well, potentially in Palace of Darkness. We can get into ice, and we can do it with bombos.
Yeah, that could be something. Maybe? How mean do you feel right now?
Alright, so bear with me. Green pendant at the bottom of Ice Palace with no fire rod leads us to the hammer, which leads us to... I don't know, it could get really bad.
Green pendant at the bottom of ice leads to the shovel on Shrashvala, which leads to the hammer in the grove.
I'm trying to think of how much farther behind logic we can make this bow and this hammer. Both of those things can be on very bad locations. Although, what do we have for pendants? Ice Palace, Tower of Hera, and Eastern Palace. Let's just say it was a bow that was locked behind that shovel, leading to the pedestal. Oh, we do need the hammer to finish Ice Palace. I mixed that one up.
Yeah, there's that one whack-a-mole dude right at the end. It's like that the one little thing you always forget about, and you couldn't get all the way to the end there, and you're like, oh, I need the thing to do the thing, and I'm not feeling well right now. Going all the way to the end of a dungeon and realizing you don't have the one thing you need.
Oh, you know, I forgot about Zora. Elminster here is going to go check Zora. Nobody else has had the cash to do it at that point.
Yeah, they all got the cash now, but it's so out of the way that they probably didn't want to backtrack all the way up there, especially with just 20 roops on the Zora ledge that some people did check.
Ooh.
And 20 roops in Zora's mouth as well.
And what did we learn?
A life lesson!
Yay!
Alright kids, let's get back to the game now. Have fun!
I do find it pretty interesting, though, that Elminster is walking out of here. That suggests that we're going to go through the portal down towards Ice Palace, so... Certainly seems like this is a likely location for Hammer at this point. Because, I mean, it would be... Well, that's the thing, though, is you gotta think, in Elminster's shoes, you'd want to either double down on avoiding Aghanim or just do the water walk, and this kind of, I think, shows a little bit of what he might be thinking right now.
Yeah, definitely so.
And come to think of it, I don't think we've been up to Hera at all, have we? We didn't have a mirror.
We haven't checked Hera at all. That, you know, could be there. Hey, another sword!
So that makes 3 that we found amongst all the runners, I believe.
Yeah, we have the one in first chest Eastern, the one back half Escape, and now the one early on in Ice Palace. Very scattered. Might be seeing a lot of Master Sword Ganon tonight.
Would love to see that tile room 4th sword. We are getting question in chat about Graveyard Ledge. Nobody has checked Graveyard Ledge yet until just now, and the Animals of Science finding what could possibly have been Sanctuary Heart, but we're not going to find out today.
Yeah, I think at, you know, around the 42-minute mark here, people are still going to be going towards those higher concentrations of items that are open versus checking one-offs in comparison. Although some people like to check one-offs because they're overworld versus going into dungeons. This version is relatively balanced, I think, in terms of dungeon versus overworld items compared to some earlier versions where it heavily skewed one way or the other.
Yeah, that's one tough thing to try and predict which way is the right way. You know, you end up diving into dungeons that you don't need to complete and finding just one item and finding out, oh wait, there's something else further in the dungeon. So, you know, a lot of plays can be punished if you don't complete them. One thing I've seen a lot of people advise is always finish your plays. Though, some people may end up, you know, skipping a location or two and end up winning for it. So, we'll end up seeing at the very end of this who ended up being the shrewdest decision maker today. I'm definitely interested to see how Elminster's going to finish his dungeon. Relatively low magic right now. I'm not sure if he's going to find enough magic to get to... If he does get the hammer, to actually finish up Cold Stir. Although it may just be a required double dip. We could find something in here that leads us to it.
Yeah, I think at this point having to go through and he's doing like the full sort of round through Ice Palace here, seeing these hookshot rooms and grabbing all the chests here is definitely tell he's digging for that hammer, and is probably gonna be disappointed if it's not in here, or something that, you know, something is not in here that would lead to any progression to get something that is more required at this point.
Ooh, and that was nothing. So no bow to Armos to cold stare or anything like that today, but definitely a double dip for Elminster. That could be costly in terms of time if the progression chain ended up being somewhere completely unrelated, which as of right now it looks to be.
Yeah, we still don't know if Ice Pal still might be required for something because it does have the green pendant. We don't know what Shad Benigno has on it today. Blaine, meanwhile, being the first one in Tower Hammer, as we were talking about.
Oh, you know, I did miss it before. You know, because of that Master Sword, Elminster does have that from Ice Palace, so not a complete loss. You know, that's the first Master Sword we've seen out of the featured racers as well. That means that this tablet is now checkable, and actually, we can get the item this time around.
Meh.
Perhaps a net time loss. Maybe this is one of those exotic situations where doing a potion glitch for the camera manipulation in Palace of Darkness could be really valuable.
Yeah, the only problem right now is getting over to that area.
Yeah, unless you've killed Aghanim, the only way over there is through a water walk coming from the Skull Woods area, which not everybody even knows about. It's relatively less commonly used, although definitely applicable to this scenario if you want to get an early jump into that dungeon. And interestingly enough, I don't think anybody's checked the pedestal, have they?
No, no one's been to the back half of Skull Woods due to no fire rod, and that's the easiest place to kind of bump back and check that area. And Salty Fry doing a quick Swamp Palace dive here, checking the first two chests there, didn't find anything, and decided to head out.
Yeah, that's a really gutsy play. That's, you know, one of those things where if you're running, you kind of feel like that's make or break. We also missed it, but there is a flute in Tower of Hera as well, so that's going to bring us to the Misery Mire area, or at least make it available to us. And Mire Shed's a pretty likely location to find something important at this point.
Yeah, you got Mire Shed and Checkerboard Cave open, and then Mire itself. Yeah, we have the Cane of Samari and the hook shots. That's all good.
Yeah, so a total of 5 potential items in that neck of the woods. By item density, although it's a bit of a time sink, certainly seems appealing. All right, Chad also corrected me again. Thanks, folks. We do have flippers. We don't need to do a water walk. I don't know what I was talking about.
Well, I mean, we can't see the flippers on Link's feet, so it's kind of an easy mistake to make, maybe? I'm just imagining Link, like, walking around Hyrule with these big old flip-flops on his feet.
Yeah, he never really does any kind of, like, changing animation, you know, and unlike Ocarina of Time, you know, you don't have to go into a menu for that. Although we do get simultaneous flute activations, gooses or looses.
We've got bird power.
Well, with that, though, seems like... Oh, so Elminster will check that mushroom now, but I think Wayne's probably on his way to Mire area. Oh, dropping some bees at the same time, too. Nope, looks like he's gonna pick up potions. That's why we're dropping those bees.
Always a good safety to have, especially when you have a lot of money like there. The seed's gotten a lot healthier than recently. Elminster's doing the same here, I think, just in case, you know. need to keep going through without half magic. It's just nice to have when you have a bottle and you have the flute to go to the witch's hut, and you're there anyway, so why not pick up some nice drinks? Now we're heading over to the mire area.
Cool refreshments for a hot, humid swamp makes a lot of sense to me. And then, of course, could be looking forward towards Palace of Darkness if we want to do that glitch today.
Yes, that as well. Oh, there's half magic. So probably just getting a few potions for, I guess, potion glitch now.
Yeah, the combination of half magic and blue potions will be a little bit overkill. It won't feel as bad to have spent the money on a potion to do that glitch. At this point, we're not going to have much use for blues. We can always just get by pretty much with reds and then maybe one blue and backup, but this is going to be a pretty safe finish to the sea, it looks like. You did mention the possibility of a Master Sword Ganon, and that's still on the table.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, the sword, they'll have silver, so the last bit won't be too bad at all, but getting there could be a little rough.
I gotta say, though, I'm a little disappointed. Maybe I missed that on Elminster's side, but I believe we're 0 for 2 on bird tosses today.
Yeah, shame. I like my frozen chicken.
Yeah, and the only other way to heat it up or thaw it is to bring it into the dungeon. Didn't even see any bird carries. 0 out of 10 for meme effort today. But this is a cash tournament. Maybe it's a little bit more important to save the frames.
Salty Fry finding the same amounts of disappointment in Ice Palace. Animals of Science doing the much Eastern as they can, because they hadn't done that earlier at that point.
Well, as if to spite chat, though, we find the bow here in Mire.
That's nice.
So to answer your questions, folks, no, we are not doing Misery Mire without bow.
Ah, yes, the boss is going to be very, very quick and just so comfy to defeat now.
Yeah, it's a lot more comfortable if you don't have the bow to have at least Tempered Sword to do the damage boost, or otherwise a lot of people will do bomb strats, but having that silver arrow available to us, we could still potentially do a 0-cycle kill regardless of sword level, which is nice.
And this also means you don't need to potion glitch in House of Darkness anymore either.
That's true. I'm curious, though, we have what we need to do it. Will we see any spookiness in this dungeon today? We might not even have to... Well, we will have to kill the boss, yeah, so there's still a chance for that. But we will see Tower of Hera from Salty Fry, though. I'm kind of curious to see where the Animals of Science is going to go next, not having found the flute yet in Tower of Hera. It seems like up the mountain would be the right play in that particular scenario, so I'm not sure where he's heading now.
He got the shovel from somewhere.
Oh!
Just gonna leave that dirty heart on the ground.
Yeah, he wasn't digging that.
Oh, shovel and pod first chest, okay.
Oh, and that would make us bow locked. Okay, so yeah, didn't have the ability to go any further. Though it was a bit of a long walk to get there, very inconvenient to go back there later. So that double dip is going to be pretty time intensive for the Animals of Science here. Well, here's the moment of truth. Looks like Elminster's just going to do a regular basement here, and I think I saw a dash set up from Wayne. Is it spooky?
I couldn't tell.
I'm getting an eerie feeling here. Nope. Although you still can set it up by throwing a block, which we didn't do here, but we'll just bomb open the wall for both these runners, possibly doing so just for simple run viability, unless you've kind of practiced the spooky action glitch. It can be a little inconsistent.
And we don't have a fire rod either, so...
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Jeez, I'm like over 10 on these today.
You just want to see all of the things be happening, that's all. You're
I
just so
love
excited.
speed tech. Well, speaking of things getting done quick, there goes Viddy. Elminster's already done, and Wayne looking to pick up a 0 cycle as well. Very nice kills. Well, with Meyer down, trying to think of what else we can really do here. I guess that's going to point to Palace of Darkness. We have to go there because Swamp's Swamp's out. I guess Turtle Rock, you could go to a few locations potentially.
Yeah, if you really wanted to go there.
I get the feeling, though, both Elm and Wayne are definitely going to be looking at Palace of Darkness first. Hyrule sure seems to be a large place when you gotta cross it all the way by foot.
Yeah, we can't even open Turtle Rock yet. No hammer.
Yep, that's 0 for 11. Yeah, so Palace of Darkness has to have that hammer. Vanilla possibility here. If we just had that hammer, we could actually have a possibility of a pedestal item. Although, fire pedestal possibility?
Possibility?
Al dente, possibly. Nevertheless, though, we will have to see Palace of Darkness first. Now, with that bow, that does give us access to the right half, which will give us the rest of the dungeon. Unfortunately, if we don't find that hammer... no, we have to find hammer. Hammer has to be there. There's no other location. So when we do, we'll be able to complete it, and that will open up Ice Palace to be completed. That'll also give us Turtle Rock and Swamp Palace. A lot of places we can go after this.
So, Wayne, noticing that they didn't get all the items in Misery Mire, dove back in, did the shaky room cutscene, and found the fire rod back there.
Yo! I don't know how Elminster mints that.
I mean, no one really likes doing the shaky room cutscene, but...
That's a gigantic error for Elminster, though. Like, that's really going to come back to haunt him. Although, on the bright side, one thing to consider is that because there are so few locations that will be available by the time that, you know, he becomes blocked by that fire rod, we won't have lost that much time overall. Thankfully, diving back into Ice Palace later, we won't have too many extra locations to check. Skullwood's completely off limits for the crystal, so he will be forced to go back there if he can remember that he didn't check all of it. So that's still a chance for him to get back into this, but that could otherwise be pretty devastating. You know, if you were tuned in earlier and you saw Wayne win the last race, suddenly looking like a lot of a contender for it today.
I mean, just doing 2 of these races, you know, 7 hours between them, not even. That's impressive to me. Also, that beautiful one-cycle landmo with the silver arrows. The silver arrows can create a lot of lag when you shoot them off, so it's always impressive when you can just 1, 2, 3 knock them all down like that.
Yeah, we'll get another chance to see that in Ganon's Tower later on, where we'll have a refight of all of the Light World foes. But if you can pull that off twice in a row in one race, that's going to be pretty awesome. I'm being told also in chat that Fire Rod was in the exact same location last race, too, so maybe it was a premonition for Wayne.
Yeah, I think when you have at least, they had 3 items, Fire Rod, Ice Rod, and Hammer especially left to, be in go mode for this seed, you want to still be checking all of those areas, even those kind of out of the way ones. But like we said earlier, you when you make a gamble, you want to stick to it.
There is some discussion in chat about the possibility of a Fire Rodless Turtle Rock, which, I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but either somebody's implying that we wouldn't have to go to the right side in the first room, or instead you would hover the gap, which I've seen once. It's kind of an insane thing. I don't know if Elminster has done that before. I feel like he's tried it, though.
Yeah, but you still needed to beat Tranix in the end, though.
Yeah, that's true, so that would be a lot of extra time sink. Oof, jeez. When it rains, it pours, but at least we will be able to finish Palace of Darkness this time through, since we will find the hammer here.
Just seeing how deep is this hammer going to be in here.
Oh, actually, I didn't think about that. Maybe Mothula could have it.
Oh, true. Yeah, we do have Skullwoods being finished up here by Blaine.
I'm always excited to see people do this with just Fighter Sword. That's not a very fun fight. At least we have half magic.
Oh yeah, Blaine still only has 1 sword.
This will open up the possibility of getting Ice Palace done in one go. Oh, there's the Ice Rod!
Ice Rod locked behind the Fire Rod.
Turtle Rock locked behind the both rods.
And the hammer. And the ether.
Yeah, we've had to go around the world in several different directions to get all of the things, all the components needed. But on the bright side, there's a decent chance that Turtle Rock will put us right into Gan's Tower with this progression. Well, Salty Fry, remembering the same thing, that there is still that location behind the cutscenes, so the Animals of Science also about to pick up the Fire Rod. Looks like we are 3 for 4 on our featured racers today, remembering that. Gotta love the bomb jump being done by Elminster here, though. Hammer jump, as we like to call it. Using some nice pause buffers to make sure we get that in the first try.
Yeah, one of the earliest tricks I knew about for this game in general. And Wayne grabbing the big key from like that very back end chest, having to go all the way back around to the big chest in Skullwoods here to crack that open. Alright, so Blue Cane in the maze room there, not what we're looking for.
And I believe I was proven wrong on Elminster's side. Looks like our hammer has a pretty good chance of being behind Armos here.
This hammer, it just keeps moving around. You think you know where it is, and then it gets up and walks away and goes, nope, I'm over here actually. Nope, you thought you had me, I'm gonna be over here.
You know, if the thing would just stop, we'd have hammer time. Eastern Palace, though, with that bow, we can now finish it up, and we'll finally get our first look at the Armos Knights. A couple of other checks going on at the same time, of course. We mentioned that Fire Rod, and then Graveyard Ledge we found out earlier was not too important. But that will put Salty Fry on the track to be catching up to Blaine. Blaine actually hasn't jumped into Ice Palace yet, so there's a couple of extra checks that he'll have to do when he goes through. Well, I'm kind of curious, if everyone's going to converge at the same point at this point, because we're seeing something completely different from Elminster, but when are we going to see, Eastern Palace, or how far into Palace of Darkness are we going to see everybody jump? It seems like this is turning out pretty linear. Just a couple of, small errors are really punishing Elminster here. And there it is.
There it is.
I regret to inform the audience, though, we definitely know that every possible configuration of pedestal is gone. If you were holding out for hope and you hadn't been paying attention, then unfortunately that is dead today.
So hey, this puts us in no mode, doesn't it?
Yes, we do know where everything is. So as soon as our other runners have made the decision to head into Eastern Palace, which seems to be exactly what will happen after Wayne checks everything here in Palace of Darkness available to him, they will be in go mode. Wayne appears to be the first one, at least on our screen. Although there could be others in the race. There are 17 total entrants, if you're just tuning in, who may have already entered go mode already. I'm just gonna notice something. Maybe it's just the on my side, but it looks like Blaine has exactly 0 rupees. Is that an 8 or a 0?
I'm squinting. I think that's an 8 if my pixel Photoshop skills tell me right.
I was gonna say, it just seems incredible to me that anybody would have 0. Alright, so never mind on that front. But I'm actually surprised to see how few rupees a lot of our runners have. It does tell you, though, that Salty Fry and Elminster, well, actually, Elminster found the 300. Salty Fry is the only one who didn't go to Zora yet.
Yeah, and two of those 300s that we found were in kind of hard to reach locations that they definitely wouldn't want to be going back to.
Well, so now that Elminster has that hammer, we're going to see that Helmsaur King fight, taking care of that. I'm seeing some speculation in chat about possibly going to Swamp Palace after this. That would make sense, and I think we'll probably see a lot of the other runners do a similar play. Although, yeah, and there's no reason to head back to Ice Palace at all. That is one nice thing for Wayne. We'll completely ignore the dungeon, only losing out on a sword. At this point, I'm kind of wondering where that 4th sword is. This may actually be a lot more relevant than I thought earlier.
Which sword did Wayne get? Did they get the Eastern Palace sword or the Escape sword?
The Escape sword, I believe.
So then, because they'll be going into Eastern Palace maybe soon here, just once they finish off this part of Palace of Darkness and not find the hammer, they'll probably pick up a second sword soon.
Yeah, so that'll give us at least Master Sword, but the 3rd sword, I'm trying to remember where we found that 3rd sword.
Ice Palace, I believe.
Right. So that will definitely not get touched, but the 4th one, I mean, it could actually be a difference later on in this race as we get up to the top of Gan's Tower. Gauntlet is a very challenging section to have with a low sword, and that may prove to be more relevant than a lot of people might otherwise wait it to be. I've seen a lot of runs end because of that. So remains to be seen how much these guys have practiced their Master Sword Ganon, but that might end up coming to the test today.
Yeah, at least with Gauntlet, you can waste a little bit of time for safety and use the medallions to get through it. But, Ganon's a whole nother story there.
At least we already have a sword to use the medallions. There are some pretty messed up configurations of logic that can put some swords at the top of the tower.
Oh yeah, definitely. So randomizer does what randomizer does.
Salty Fry having picked up that fire rod, though, gonna head here to Skull Woods, finish up all the checks, having finished off Mothula just now. That would put Palace of Darkness as the next step, and thankfully doesn't even have to do a extra portal to get there, so that's pretty convenient routing on Salty Fry's side. It almost seems like the Animals of Science has been hot on his heels for most of this race, having made some pretty similar decisions. I would have to think he's also on his way to Palace of Darkness now, but pulling out the mirror, I'm kind of wondering if this is a pedestal check? No, we're going to Flute.
Nope, you don't have hammer yet. You can't smash away into that way.
Lamentably, we'll have to do that extra portal anyway. Gotta admit, though, pressure's definitely on for racers on this, front stage and center setting. It's definitely easier for us to talk about the game, seeing all of the moving pieces, than it is to actually do the game. So props and shoutouts to all these runners. If you haven't followed these guys already, highly recommend you give all of these racers a follow. They are clearly, great contenders for this tournament, and I'm sure many others to, still be run. Well, here comes the rest of that Swan Palace we didn't get to see. Elminster's probably full clear in this.
Yeah, looking for those 2 rods. Unfortunately, not knowing that one is locked behind the other. But in terms of plays in itself, Swamp Palace is definitely one of the most lucrative locations to pop into.
6 items total, I believe, right?
Yeah, some number like that.
Yeah, a lot of people loathe it for how much time it takes to get there, but you can't beat that item density very easily. I think Turtle Rock's one of the few locations that has more. Palace of Darkness coming to mind as well.
Yeah, Swamp Palace definitely takes a chunk of time just because it's a big dungeon, it takes time to open it, and then plus you got all the little cutscenes within it of flooding the different rooms. And
yeah, that's go mode for Gwaine, isn't it?
Now. Yeah, at about the 112 mark.
Go mode, yet we still have another 2 more crystals to finish up, so still some opportunity for mistakes and execution to give others a chance. Or, sorry, 3 crystals. We haven't finished up Helmasaur King yet. He did Eastern Palace. I had that backwards. So definitely some time for Salty Fry and the Animals of Science to kind of make up some steam here. They're very close to him, actually. Closer than it appeared before.
Yeah, they're both heading on that same path of generally clearing out all of Pod until they can't anymore, and then they'll probably head to Eastern right after that. So yeah, very linear in the end here.
So what would you call that kind of advantage? Maybe what, like a full dungeon advantage?
Yeah, something close to that. I mean, in comparison, both Salty Fry and Animals of Science have already cleared out, I think, most of Eastern. So this will be their second dip into that dungeon, so they'll just be rushing right to the back and clearing it. So I think it averages out, just judging from how far Gwaine is in their second trip through Palace of Darkness here, that it probably averages out to about a dungeon's worth of time between them. Math.
Hey, I'm no math magician myself, so no judgment here. We we'll see some pretty awesome boss kills from here on out, though. Silver Arrows does help us out a lot. And then, of course, these are all very fun technical boss kills between the potential... Well, I'm hoping we find another sword in Swamp Palace, just because, you know, no one likes Menu Stare. Or not Menu Stare, Menu Argus.
Yeah, the only problem with another sword in Swamp Palace is that the majority of runners are going to be doing Go Mode Swamp Palace.
That's true, and then that would make this even more linear. I'm hoping that if we don't see a Menu Argus, we see a Swordsman Argus, because Master Sword otherwise would be really annoying. Well, everything's so far looking to be a bust here in Swamp Palace for Elminster, though. I'm definitely going to dive to the back, though. No sense jumping out of this place until he checked everything. And he will get the crystal as well on his way through. Kind of wondering where his head's going to be after he finishes up Argus here.
Yeah, at that point, do you pop back into Ice Palace? Or do you make that, like, I don't know, that Turtle Rock play and see if Fire Rod is in that first little bit there?
Pretty much everything looks bad. At least, I would think from his perspective, it would all look like bad decisions to have to make.
Yeah, and then, like, that last decision being, you know, going back into Mire and doing the shaky cutscene room. And just having to double back on the gamble there.
And I would say that's one of the toughest things about racing Randomizer is, you know, a lot of times you'll just feel behind even if, say, you're ahead. But, you know, when you know that you're behind, every single decision looks like it's going to cost you more and more time, which is a very frustrating thing about racing the game. That being said, though, a lot of, you know, people do end up emerging victorious when they didn't expect to be. You never know how bad everybody else's day is when it comes to this Randomizer.
Yeah, especially in a case where you're finding something as important as the hammer as your Go Mode item, you know, over an hour in, you're wondering, you know, I could have gotten this when I first got the bow. I could have had this earlier. Did everybody else get this earlier? Am I the last one? What's going on? What's my name? Who am I?
And how in the world did Zelda save herself anyway? She was locked behind a cell. The world may never know.
Those bars look pretty spread apart. I think she can fit.
Fair enough, fair enough. Two-dimensional sprite makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, this is just like Paper Mario World here, so Elminster going for the swipey swipe sword strats there on the boss, getting red mail.
That's one of those kicks to the teeth. You're like, it's not the red item I'm looking for. Oh, I get it. Chad made a good point here. Aga just forgot to lock the cell. It's open mode. That's why Zelda. Makes sense.
Open cell mode. I get it. Mystery solved. Let's move on, gang.
I'm just contemplating Elminster's position here. That's rough. But heading to a Dark World portal. I'm trying to think of where that would lead us. By the looks of things, I believe the Animals of Science has kind of overtaken Salty Fry here. Salty Fry is still making his way... Oh yeah, because Salty Fry has to do the entire dungeon still, having not done Eastern earlier.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay, I see now. I thought they had the sword from Eastern, but no, they did the Ice Palace one, I believe, for their second sword, so they're the first one with Tempered Sword here. And also, Elminster was checking the hammer pegs, since that was locked up until relatively recently.
Oh no, I think Elminster's heading up to Turtle Rock.
Yeah,
well,
going by item density, that's the next logical place. And I mean, you know what, sometimes Fire Rod is right in that first chest, which is helpful and also annoying, but I feel bad. there's also
Oh.
Spike Cave, yes. These other little one-off checks that you never really think about until you're going after that one last dang item.
Yeah, we haven't seen this from anybody yet, so as good a place to check as any, really. For those of you who are just kind of tuning in, 3 of our runners so far have pretty much made the same logical decisions. The only exception on the featured stream is Elminster, who missed 1 item in Misery Mire behind the cutscene chest, missing that Fire Rod, which leads to Ice Rod. Kind of a tough situation to be in. We're seeing some interesting screen sync between Wayne and Elminster here, though. That's funny. Oh, is that the Waffle House drive-thru? Oh, he stops it! What a troll.
Waffle House drive-thru? I don't think I've heard that one before.
Basically, the story is that a runner by the name of Waffle42 in MMG was doing that hook dash there, and you can hookshot the dead rocks to try and drive through. Only in his case, he got stuck real bad, and just the clip's named "I Quit." He just gets completely wrecked. But if you do like if you go through the rocks through the north side of it while you have hook dash speed, it's called the drive-through. And so people eventually started calling it Waffle House drive-through. Get those flapjacks to go.
So Elminster never did Uncle or his first chest there. Just poking in there now, looking so hard for those last 2 items.
This is going to be near completion of the entire game world for Elminster, which that's got to be frustrating. Though he's doing it pretty quick overall, I have to say.
Yeah, this is a moment where it shows like execution and knowledge of the game versus like knowledge of randomizer puzzling. That really helps.
I'm pretty convinced though that Elm just simply forgot that the location was there. I mean, that happens to the best of us, you know, because I can't imagine that he may have just miscounted.
Yeah, it's easy to miscount chests. You know, either you do it in your head or you're using a tracker and you just think that the compass was a blue ruby or something like that. You're just not paying attention and you're trying to route in your head and you just don't mark something off, or, you know, just, again, also possibly just don't want to take the time and just ride that gamble till you can't ride it anymore.
And then, of course, we'll see the rest of the escape. In the meantime, though, Animals of Science is in Swamp Palace, heading back to get to Argus. And this is Go Mode Swamp Palace. This will be a little bit quicker than we would have seen otherwise so far. Wayne, though, in Turtle Rock, last dungeon, with a sizable lead as far as we could tell. You know, I'm almost a little worried that the Trinex there, for how fast he's going through this, is going to end up with Whiplash.
Yeah, luckily Trinex has a little bit of an advantage here with just being a Master Sword. It's going to take a lot of extra swings. Luckily, they have half magic, so it might not be too painful. I've seen many instances of where there's only single magic, and you got Master Sword Trinex, and you run out of magic because it's just taken that long to bop those heads down. Or, you know, you do menu strats and switch off to the hammer.
I agree. I see a lot of people just kind of finish it off once because yeah, you want to avoid the menus. Once they've got enough damage done to the second head, they'll just burn the rest down when they have half magic. But it can be a very scary fight if you don't. I think only Wayne and Elminster have picked up blue potions. I might be wrong about that, though.
Yeah, I don't believe anybody else stopped inside the potion shop to fill up their drinks to go.
And you think for as much lava as there is in Turtle Rock, it'd be a great time to have a nice refreshing beverage. Also, pretty funny bunny sprite for Wayne there. Dark Link turns into regular Link. And of course, for those of you who watch a lot of Randomizer, you know that Go Mode Turtle Rock, not too much faster than, you know, simply just going through to check everything. So we won't save much time for being in Go Mode. As for where we find that big key in Turtle Rock, that might be something of relevance for how these runners place. As a reminder, this is a qualifier race that, without kind of going into some ridiculous math, it's going to be seeding our racers in the top 8 based on whether or not they perform very well against their opponents. So even if you don't take first, it's still relevant how fast you finish this race.
Yeah, Turtle Rock Big Key is pretty early. It was in oops, missed that platform and walked off the edge. It was in the roller room after the platform room with the fire rod shots that you take to light the lanterns.
Yeah, so this is a pretty straightforward dungeon overall. And it's also very generous in terms of magic too. So since we have the powder, we have a couple of different ways to make sure we get through here without dying. Dying in Turtle Rock, pretty painful. It takes a while to get back if you haven't made it to the midpoint yet.
Yeah, Blaine getting that final key from Laser Bridge. Very nice laser dodges there. Not going to take the safety back door. Just going to go destroy Trinex.
Certainly in a cozy position. I think it's a little bold to not powder, but I mean, it's a lot of health. Blue mail, red mail. Not really a tough fight in the position. It's just if you miss a couple shots and you get ice on the floor, it's not a position I'd want to be in.
Yeah, it can get pretty slippery at that point. I mean, they do have blue potions, so I think they're pretty safe as long as they time things right if it comes to having to use the potions.
This is a really good fight so far for Wayne. Getting through the first cycle and getting the item switch. When a boss is exploding or changing forms, you actually can't access the menu. And that was a 2 cycle, really nicely done.
And no ice on the floor, just one little nip from Trinex. Gonna go for a couple of quick hits here at the start before he turns and his midsection becomes the target. A little bit more damage, but goes down pretty nicely. That is the last crystal. Now, it's not official, but you want to have some fun?
Absolutely.
Alright.
Wait, it's officially not fun?
Well, our fun isn't official, but we can officially have fun unofficially. So let's get some numbers in chat here, and why don't you explain what those numbers are for?
So one thing we like to do when we're watching randomizers, we love to guess where we're going to find that big key in Ganon's tower. Of course, we always base this on the first person into Ganon's tower. But there are 22 item locations that could potentially house that big key. Of course, we can't get to the big chest itself. Routing determines which, chest is going to be that number, but to get your guesses in, figure out which one, we're going to find it in. Do you have a preference, Karaoke?
My favorite number is 18, so I usually pick that one.
That's officially your guess. As for me, I'm officially a fan of Bob, so I'm hoping if it's right-left strats, it'll be number 14 today. Alright, but the unofficial results don't count unless you cut them off as we enter the basin here, so give it another 15 seconds or so, probably right when you're hearing it on my screen. Oh!
Welp.
It's official. Well, 1 is the loneliest number that you can ever do in terms of keys. Now we still have to actually go find a small key, as we will need one to go higher up in the tower.
Yeah, luckily there's that 1 in the pot right there. Nothing on the torch. So sometimes there could be 1 there, and that would have been a little bit faster. But right under that skull pot, you can get your key, your small key that you want to go up the tower with. And it looks like Elm has exhausted all other possibilities and is gonna go back into Mire.
Yeah, so thankfully we'll end up finding it, and afterwards has a pretty fast finish for Skull Woods, and then Turtle Rock will be following behind that, but still quite a deficit to deal with. I guess GT today is standing for God Tower, doesn't it? I mean, it's kind of like God Mire where you find that big key immediately. And keeping in line with the GT themes, Blaine here having to do some stutter steps through Ganon Ball GT.
Yeah, still clean. Some people will fall at the start of that room, waste the heart to get a better lineup for the cannonballs, and just run straight across and now we are in the gauntlet. It'll be an interesting comparison for when Salty Fry gets here to see the sword difference, although Bwayne's doing pretty bang-up job here, just with Master Sword and nice positioning of the enemies.
Yeah, this is typically a very difficult execution section, and with that sword level particularly, but this could definitely go a lot worse than it is now. Well, it's going to be 2 for 2 on perfect 1 cycles.
Let's see. Didn't stop for powder, so... Oh, haha, yeah, that's what I like.
Making it look easy, the inclusion of a fireball statue not phasing him today. Alright, moment of truth for Elminster RTA. Unfortunately, finding that fire rod. Is this a frustration slash moment? No, he's gonna mirror right out. I would frustration slash there, personally.
Yeah, I might be hoping that, you know, no one else found it either. Possibly, that's always a thing to think about. Especially, you know, this late in.
Well, I mean, you blink and you miss it. Wayne here already almost a Moldorm 2, just blazing through his Ganon's tower. I would be proud of this split if this was MMG. I mean, just crushing it.
Yeah, beautiful execution. Oh! Nice!
No way! Dropping a couple extra bombs, I don't know if that's like explosive excitement or... Oh my goodness.
That is a lucky sword find. I like that. Definitely gonna make this last portion easier here. Moldorm going down in one little dash and one spin. Ganon's gonna be a lot easier, and let's hope the Geometry Wizard coming up here in a couple more rooms plays nice.
Yeah, now that we have that temper, he's not going to stop for that vanilla big 20 chest after Moldorm 2, and right up to that Aghanim fight. If you haven't seen Link to the Past, this is a refight of the Light World Aghanim fight that we skipped. Good old Ganon volleyball, as we were talking about earlier. We just need to hit him 6 times between all of the reflections. We're going to hit that real one in order to advance to Ganon. That may have been a triple, but I think it was a double.
Oof, no hits there. Dun dun. That unfortunate blue ball, and again. There's a triple. So the first one was a double. Just need one more at this point, and he's down. Up in the bonk counter here as Ganon flies off.
Well, this fight's not bad at all to deal with, though. I mean, you know, Tempered Sword, Silver Arrows, pretty comfy place.
Oh yeah, definitely gonna be a comfy Ganon fight. Just need to watch out for, you know, the edges there and falling, or maybe getting hit by too many bats, being a little bit too, you know, hype in terms of hitting him and not watching where stuff is flying. But I mean, they got red mail, so not gonna be taking as much damage as possible. A nice positioning here in the corner. Gonna eat that trident. Get the cape out just in case. We do have half magic, so.
Yeah, so plenty of magic to burn. We still have those potions. No reason not to get the iframes. You wouldn't want to use Blue Cane, though. That would add lag.
Yeah, there's already enough stuff on screen, and here we are, phase 3 already.
I'm a little bit behind. Is we on phase 4 yet here? So we get a simple one-shot in there. Missing Fire Rod, or Torch Glitch. Not too important when you have Silver Arrows, but looking to try and get a triple here to finish it out. just barely missing.
And the sword is up and the fanfare plays.
Well, with that, Wayne will walk into the Triforce room and done here in SRL with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 34 minutes, and 41 seconds. GG's in the chat, folks. With that, we'll see if we can get him in here for an interview, being the victor, of course, first place amongst all 17 racers, while we watch and cheer on the rest of these racers finish up their race.
While we're waiting on that, we got Animals of Science just finishing up the gauntlet here. Salty Fry getting their last crystal from Trinex Ice Fight, and Elminster finally back in Turtle Rock here, going through. Just gonna hightail it to the end now that they got both the fire and ice rods.
You know, I'm pretty impressed about how much time has been caught back up. All things considered, I mean, Elminster was at least a dungeon behind Salty Fry and Animals of Science, comparatively speaking. So that's a lot of time caught back up. We'll see if everybody else has as good of a gauntlet, though. Elminster does have the advantage over his opponents on stream of having that extra sword upgrade. He's probably, well, he may or may not open that chest, so we might not even see a gold sword at all.
Yeah, we'll just see if either Salty Fry also has Tempered Sword, so we'll see how that goes there. If they also decide to open that little chest up there.
Yeah, it's pretty common to skip that one if you have that sword. Alright, looks like we have Wayne in the waiting room. Pull him in now for that interview. Alright, and we are joined by the victor of the race today. Wayne, how are you doing today?
Hey Yuta, how's it going? GG to everybody else. Karaoke, how's it going?
Not bad, GG to you. That's 2 firsts in 1 day. Wow.
I was kind of regretting, I got to like 55 minutes before the match, and I kind of regretted doing the 2 in 1 day. I played some more races earlier this morning. I was like, maybe this is too much Link to the Past. So shout out to the seed being nice and not super trolly. I was a little worried. Sometimes you start getting them all mixed up. You're like, wait a minute, what was this? But can't complain. First place.
Yeah, seed being nice. I hear that in your first race, the fire rod was in that same location between what I like to call the shaky cutscene room in Misery Mire.
Yeah, what are the odds of that? Both times killed Vitreous. Both times had to decide whether or not to go back in. Both times made the right call, but I'll be lying if I said it wasn't on my mind. Hey, a couple hours ago, you just had Fire Rod at that spot. Maybe you need to go back in and check it. I'm sure in a race like this, where people are pushing to cut corners, that's probably one of those ones that a lot of people might have not gone back in for, and it's very weird to have 2 of those in the same day.
Yeah, out of everyone on the restream, 3 of you did go right back in to grab that fire rod, and the 4th did not and went on a world tour looking for that, especially because Ice Rod was locked behind Fire Rod this time around.
Yeah, it's very understandable. I mean, you get the bow. Bow is, if you haven't been to Pod yet, bow is a lot of items potentially, or at least Pod has a lot of items. I can totally understand not going back in after you pull the bow out of there. It makes a lot of sense, and in a race like this, sometimes that's what you need to do. So you know, it makes a lot of sense. You can't fault that play in a seed like this.
Well, it's interesting to see how much of a an advantage you had over your opponents. It shows in the times that we're seeing, because Animals of Science on the restream here is just doing the Ganon fight, and nobody's not done before him besides you. That's a good 5 minutes he saved by not having to do Ice Palace. Seems to have been pretty much the difference here.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't skip a lot. If Hammer had not been in Eastern, and by the way, Go Mode Hammer on Armos Knights, that's a new one for me. Don't see that every day. But I only had the dig spot, powder, and the items that I could get out of ice and the first chest in swamp. That was it. So it wasn't a seed that you had to skip a lot of things to get a good time. Those early boots are so nice. Like that's beautiful, especially having a bootsless seed earlier today, to get those early boots and just be able to kind of run around the entire world in one shot, clear out most of the overworld, and then start diving into dungeons. Like I said, my kind of seed, this was pretty friendly, and no complaints this time.
Well, speaking of finishing up the seed, the Animals of Science is just done the restream with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 40 minutes, and 36 seconds for our second place finish here. GG's to the Animals of Science as well. Well, so that makes 2 victories in 1 day. We're talking how exciting that is, but how many have you completed so far here in the qualifier?
I had only done 1 before today, and it didn't go great. This will help, I think, pull me back up. But it's going to be an exclusive club going on to the top 8. So even with 2 first places, it's still going to come down to what happens in that 4th match. So feeling good. I guess this means in my last match, I don't have to pull out anything kind of crazy. I can kind of play it straight up, which was my plan going into this race, since I was just coming off the 1st place, and just lucky to get a seed that rewarded kind of a full clear mentality, having to go up to Pendant Hera when it opened up, and having to go back into Mire to pull the Fire Rod out of there. So if I get another seed like that, it'll kind of play right into a conservative style. We'll see, you never know what you're going to get on any given day. But yeah, I don't know what the standings look like. I don't even know if the standings are public anywhere, or maybe I've just missed that. So I don't know how it looks, but all I can do is 1 more seed, and if I don't do great and 8 other people can pull a better score than me, then so be it. It'll be fun to watch from the sidelines too.
Yeah, all race, speaking of how conventional this seed kind of played out, I was constantly rooting for, weird exploits and glitches to have to be used, but besides some water walks being done by some folks early on, there really wasn't a whole lot of big sequence breaks. So like you said, it really paid off to be a full clear mentality going through this. But I'm really excited to see that last race of yours. Obviously, you're a big contender to make it to the top 8 here. I'm hoping that your next race is just as fortuitous for you.
Well, that makes 2 of us. We'll see. You never know. Like I said, so one man's convenient seed is another person's troll and a half. So just all you can kind of do is play the numbers and let the chips fall where they may.
So it looks like no one else other than you checked that chest up in the little mini helmet store room in Ganon's Tower to get that final sword. So was that just kind of your last grasp at trying to find an extra sword, so you would need to do Master Sword for the rest of the Ganon's Tower there?
Yeah, I mean, Master Sword wouldn't have been too bad. I had half magic, I had the cape, I had plenty of potions since I bought potions right before I went into Mire. So it wasn't going to be a problem. I opened a couple chests in Swamp. I don't know how I feel about those. I had to kill the Helmosaur for the key anyway, so it's not that much longer to look for a sword. Did I miss a sword somewhere else? Because I'm seeing on the restream, I guess everybody else has some swords. I guess I must have missed one.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. We had Eastern Palace, we had Escape, we had
Ice Palace, and top of Ganon's Tower, yeah.
Oh, okay, Ice Palace. Well, that makes a lot of sense then. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a nice to have. I gotta open a couple more. I didn't get to open anything in GT. The odds probably say I shouldn't open those chests because the odds of it being a sword are not great, considering all the items that are still in dungeons and in GT. But you know, if there is one there, it saves a little bit of time. And like I said, maybe it's a little different since I have to kill that Helmosaur, kind of stopping in that room anyway. But hey, it worked out this time. This would have been a fine setup to do Master Sword, though. It wouldn't. You know, there's definitely times you're trying to desperately avoid it. But even Master Sword with silvers can't go too badly.
Yeah, and it looks like everybody on our side of the restream did end up doing a tempered sword fight. Salty Fry actually just finishing with an official SRL time of 1 hour 44 minutes and 10 seconds. Elminster's jumping into his fight as well. Salty Fry was third, and we'll see if Elminster can secure his position there. Same. Oh, and it looks like we also have Salty Fry in the waiting room. I'm going to go ahead and pull him in as well.
Hello, Salty Fry. How do you feel?
Pretty good.
Well, it looks like you did secure third place in this seed. And I don't believe this is your first race of the qualifier, is it?
No, I came in second. This is my second race now. So I have a second and a third, so that's not bad. All things considered in this race, I'll take the third, because this was not far from my best race, that's for sure. I mean, I soft-locked in Turtle Rock, that wasn't exactly fun, and I found the hammer and I think the third last possible spot, so considering those two things, I'll take it.
Yeah, and looking at it, out of 17 racers, it's a pretty favorable place to be for the run. And it looks like we actually have our fourth place finisher in Elminster RTA, having just done on the restream with a 146.19. So interestingly enough, we did have all four of the first four finishers here on stream. That was exciting.
Yeah, clutched it out with a half a heart left in health as well.
It goes to show you that Elminster doesn't give up on stuff, but we'll probably end up getting some words from him in just a moment. But Salty Fry, you know, going into this, I believe this is, what was your second race, so you still got two more. Do you plan on spreading those out in any particular way?
I'll take them when I can. Some of them I can't obviously make a lot of the races, so it's a little iffy, so I'll kind of play the ones that I can is really what's going to happen. It'll probably be a little while before I get in another one now. But we'll see. Basically, when I can, I'll get in on them. Is kind of the plan as it goes forward.
And we are also joined by Elminster RTA. GG to all four of our racers, three of them here in this chat now.
Okay, I don't know who picked the racers. I think it was demoted staff actually. So, like, from what I understand, all four of the on stream were the right.
Yeah.
Okay, so like whoever's picking the races, whoever's picking the featured. I know for Sakura does most of them, but all of them seem to be witches, I guess.
That's pretty impressive.
Anyways, so yeah, that was that seat had pretty much the exact Mire and T-Rock layout in this situation that would have screwed me as bad as it did.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, we had the same fire rod location as the first race today, which is, you know, frustrating to anybody in the earlier race. Wayne having, you know, won both of them, but you know, as far as progression goes, or the way that we followed the logic here, Elm, I'm pretty sure that fire rod was the only thing that separated any of our racers for how they proceeded through most of these dungeons. That was really the only setback that we could see on our end.
From me?
Yeah, like the big thing that kind of really threw a wrench in your game, but you did make up a lot of time in execution.
Okay. I'm surprised by that because I feel like I executed extremely poorly. Like I wasn't thinking about how to go through most rooms. I was nudging a lot of doors. I was equipping the wrong item in a lot of rooms, like just a whole bunch of stuff. My gauntlet was kind of a mess. But yeah, so like here's like okay. Where do I even start? Okay, so like I kind of wasn't thinking clearly about what I was doing with the smith, and I was just like, okay, well, I'll grab him, and then I forgot to check the sick kid item, so I'll walk back to Kakariko again and turn him in. Then I'll just skip Thieves Town because hold out for Hammer maybe. I still have a lot open. Titansmith, I still have Dark Death Mountain open. I even didn't think to check that. So I'm like, okay, I'll grab the Smith, I'll go to Hype Cave, and then I'll save and quit to Mountain, and then, you know, check that, and then I'll go turn in the Smith to Kakariko once I'm comfortable that, okay, I made a reasonable effort to find a hammer, and I didn't find it. And then I'm like, wait, you can't enter multi-entrance caves with the Smith, so that plan doesn't work, so I have to walk to Kakariko again. And then finally go to Thieves Town, and the mirror is there, and the mirror could have helped me route Smith better, and K45 and a whole bunch of stuff, so I was like, okay, that was really bad. And then, so I was like, okay, well, I need to continue playing in a way that, like, I'm still going to have an advantage, despite some of my small mistakes. Like, I've got to play as if, like, still hold on to the advantages that I have. That's kind of how I've been approaching these.
Yeah, kind of following it down the rabbit hole, so to speak.
Yeah, kind of. It's like, I try to be aware of what things other people might possibly get trolled by, and the ones that I'm, like, kind of the path that I'm kind of set on. I try to cover bases depending on how likely I think I'll lose time on them compared to others. It's kind of complicated, but anyways. So I'm like, well, I've already, like, ran around the world a bit. I don't really want to run around the world again to go to pod. I don't have bow, I don't have hammer, like, just missing a lot of stuff. I was like, okay, well, ice, maybe? Like, ice play? And it's like, I had a feeling hammer might be there, but also, if it's not there, I had a feeling something was there, right? So, and I felt okay about it. It's a pendant. Can't complete it because hammer, so my tripping is going to be cut short, so I won't waste time checking the whole thing if I'm there. Hopefully there's just nothing behind the hammer. All I find is Master Sword and a piece of heart, so I'm like, okay, there's only one item left in the ice, and green pendant, so, like, I feel pretty decent, okay, like Master Sword, that's good for me. Let's check tablets and try and capitalize on that. Tablets had nothing, unfortunately. But eventually, like, I did find the flute in Hera, and I was just like, well, I could have had this a while ago, but it's probably not unreasonable for me to grab it now. Let's follow it to Meyer. Meyer has bow, and I think actually I forgot to check Reward Cave entirely. So
yeah, I don't think I saw that at all, to be honest.
I just forgot it, and then I was freaking out later, but turns out I didn't need it. But yeah, so Meyer, bow on the bridge. So it's like I've got one item, right? I go in the ridge to the left, and top left chest does not have a key. Which, if you have the key, if you see the key there, then I think you can pretty much guarantee the big keys in cutscene chest. So I was like, okay, well, there might still be an item there, but I have one item, and the big key is likely not there. It could still be there, but likely not. So I find the big key over the second item. I don't get it, but I'm like, okay, I found the bow. That's what the flute was pointing me to, so I'm okay with leaving. I left the fire rod there, unfortunately. Bow, pod, cleared pod, nothing. I'm like, okay. Even though I dipped Eastern already, like, I might lose time over somebody who didn't double dip Eastern, but I'm gonna go into Eastern again. That sword I got helped me out anyways. So, you know, bow's got to lead to something at this rate. Things are thinning out. So, okay, Armos has hammer. Okay, that's really, like, what I thought would happen, and I'm really glad it was there. So, like, okay. I think I'm ahead right now. Let's try and follow the hammer as much as possible. So that led me away from Fire Rod a lot. So I was like, okay, beeline to Swamp. Like, for all I know, both rods are here. Okay, Swamp. I want to make a better decision on left side, so I'm going to check some extraneous stuff first. I'm going to check my shovel, check K45, which I missed, and then check Bombo's tablet, because I wanted to, like, fully see whether dipping ice helped me or not. And it turned out that it kind of didn't, but I still had the sword advantage. And so I was like, okay, hopefully that helps me. Swamp, bust, left side, bust. I flooded the key because I was, like, really frantic. And I was like, okay, yeah, it just a mess. And then eventually, like, went to T-Rock. T-Rock had the exact key layout that lets you go through it without the fire rod. That had nothing. It's like,
It sure seems, in a nutshell, like the story of your race was, you know, when it rains in waterfall caves.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts. I tried to keep my cool as much as possible during that, and like once I knew I'd lost a bunch of time in T-Rock, I was just like, okay, I think I have to have missed something. So the other thing I was thinking was I skipped Terra Basement item, and I was just like debating on whether I should go that versus Mire, and to be quite honest, I'm not really sure why I picked Mire. Like, I was really torn between the two of them.
Well, so I mean, it does show when we're looking at all these times, though. You may be interested. I don't know if I just mentioned it a little bit before, but Wayne was the only one skipping Ice Palace, and I think pretty much everybody else did it. We are getting a lot of times here that have streamed in as we've been carrying out this interview. We've had following the first 4 winners. We also had Fajita Knight finishing with 148, Slowpoke barely getting sniped behind him for 6th place by 9 seconds. We also had Phantom Ryu after that, Dark Shadows. Looks like we also had ZZZ Cube, and then Magus and the Cutsman following that, all the way up through 12th place. We do have 13th place with Marty7449 at 205.42, and we have Febreze Ninja taking 14th place. 15th is going to be Voranth today with the 209, and we still have 16th and 17th finishing up right now. I'm curious, though, since I have asked the other two, Elm, when do you think we might see you finish out your qualifier? I think you still have a 3rd or 4th race?
I have 2 races left. That's going to be really whenever I can find time. I'm going to be kind of busy with a lot of stuff coming up here, and that's the main reason I joined this one, because I was like, well, I'm kind of running out of time. I need to get my 4 in. The first one I joined, actually, specifically, like, you know how we sign up ahead of time, so we're not supposed to know who's in it. I signed up for that one because it was the night one, so I was hoping Gerda was asleep. And I saw that Faraime was in the middle of an Overworld Glitches tournament match, so that's why I signed up for that particular one. This one was like spur of the moment, but I did win that first one, so I had a perfect score going into this one, and I was just like, okay, well, it's probably only downhill from here, and I'm still pretty happy I got 4th with that Fire Rod troll, but I didn't feel too bad throughout it. Because there were a lot of things that if I didn't pull the hammer when I did, or like if I hadn't dipped ice already before the hammer, like if people got hammer before going to ice, they could go into ice, full clear the whole thing, and waste more time than I did. Fire Rod leading directly to Ice Rod felt really bad because I was hoping that Ice Rod would be a bit more trolly considering what I had been through, but Fire Rod may have saved me from other things. Like, I don't know, it just the nature of big races, I did feel like there was a lot of stuff in this seed that could have tripped a lot of other people up, were even worse than I had. So
certainly goes to show in the massive spread of time between first and even still some runners still going more than half an hour later. So it's a very competitive race to watch. I've had a fantastic time seeing all the 4 of you. Of course, the Animals of Science, we didn't manage to get him for an interview, but watching the 4 of you do this race has been an absolute blast. I'm sure I'm also speaking for karaoke on that one, right?
Yeah, it was definitely very interesting for such a linear seed. And it was always fun to have the 4 featured runners be the first 4 finishers. I just like seeing that happen because, yeah, the people picking the featured runners are witches or something.
yeah, so I got the offer to be featured again, and I think like they pick people that they think have a pretty good chance of winning. I think is the point behind that. But I was just like, yes, please. Get me that restream luck, because the people on the restream tend to win more, it seems.
Think Dorm. But we'll also get a 16th place finish just now from Old Man Sunshine with 2:13.50. Getting pretty close to the, well, that would be 17th place actually right behind following that. So that will actually complete the race. That being said, I think we should probably do the same thing on our end. Want to give an opportunity for Bwayne and Salty Fry in order. Bwayne, do you have anything you'd like to say to your fans out there?
Not just everybody, thanks for watching. Everybody behind the scenes, Yuta, Karaoke, thanks for putting this on, doing the work. Trackers, thanks for the work as well. That's hard stuff that you're doing. Salty, Elm, Animals, good GGs. This was another tricky one. If I hadn't played one earlier this morning that had the fire rod in that same spot, I might have easily followed right in your footsteps, Elm. But, sometimes luck's on your side, sometimes it's not. That's rando. But GG's to everybody. Good race. Nice to have the first 4 all on the restream. That'll be fun. It'll be a fun one to watch back as well.
You got that right. Same extension to you, Salty Fry. Anything you'd like to say to the fans out there, those who like the salty snacks, like the fries?
I'll just second most of what Blaine said. Thanks to everyone. GG to everyone. Best of luck going forward to everyone.
Elm to the pair fans?
Thanks for supporting. I actually, I announced that I was going to be on stream in my Discord, and I got, like, a bunch of instant people that were like, oh yeah, I'm totally down to watch this, so that was pretty cool. But, like, the tournament for, like, the cash prize, it puts me in such a different kind of, like, more really intense, really focused mindset, and I'm, like, hyper-analyzing everything I do, and there's a lot of weird clarity that comes with that. I don't really know how to explain it, but it kind of lights a fire for me. The other like tournament stuff doesn't really, but it makes it fun. There's some that like don't agree the most, just like maybe playing for money isn't their thing, but it's definitely different. It's quite an experience. So yeah, it's about it.
It's exciting, and I'm sure everybody here is going to be tuned in to the actual bracket for the top 8, which will, of course, be hosted here on Speed Gaming. Make sure you follow all the channels, Speed Gaming 2 through 6, to catch the rest of this tournament, of course. You don't want to miss any of that action. I think we've pretty much covered it all. Thanks again to our trackers today, Nifboy, and it was Iceman F1. Karaoke, anything else you'd like to kind of close us out with?
No, I'm also looking forward to not only the bracket, but the rest of these qualifiers in this last little few days of August here. It's been a quick month, actually.
Agreed on that one. And also want to thank you for sharing the commentator role with me today. It was a lot of fun.
Of course, it's always a lot of fun with you.
Oh, no. Right, dude. All right. Well, with that, I think that'll close us out today. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Until next time, we'll see you next mission.